Everything you need is already inside of you. The world would not be what it is without you. When we begin to create change within us, we begin to create change in the world around us. Your journey to becoming your best self as the whole person starts right now.
Don't you just want to be at that beach running along the ocean? That looks amazing. Welcome to the Become Your Best podcast and webinar series. I am Lauren Sweeney, and I am your host today. Very excited to have you on the podcast. We have a very special guest, so thank you for tuning in and joining us and taking about the next 20 minutes or so to really dive into some personal and professional growth. You're going to love the topic we are talking about today. Seems to be the topic of the week: abundance and money. All right. Our guest is Stephanie Walter. She lives in Colorado. They're expecting a lot of snow, so we'll be thinking about them. And she is a legacy cash flow specialist. Wow. A legacy cash flow specialist, a capital raiser, a syndicator, a real estate investor, and she is the CEO of Erbe Wealth. She recently retired, sold her insurance agency of 16 years by following the key principles she teaches professionals to use. She now teaches professionals to unlearn. I love that. Unlearning what most of us have been wired to think about money. And she re-educates people on attaining wealth that can be passed on to the next generation. She is the gateway between these professionals and well-vetted deals. Oh, I cannot wait for our conversation. Let's bring her onto the stage, Stephanie Walter.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi,
Thanks for having me.
Oh, so glad to have you. Glad to be here together today on this amazing Friday. Tell me a little bit about you and how you got to be where you're at today.
Oh yeah, I quit my W-2 job when I about 16 years ago and became an entrepreneur. Owned a insurance practice. Always loved real estate, so continued to invest in real estate. Not really having a great deal of education about it, but it's hard to go wrong in Colorado as far as real estate because things are growing so much here. But got more interested in 2016 on doing syndicated deals, which are just large apartment deals or commercial real estate deals, and went and got some education on that through RE Mentor, and completed my first syndication in 2018. Realized that I really loved raising money for these deals, and started dealing on a day-to-day basis with some very wealthy people, and realized that they look at money very, very differently than most people do. And shortly after, being around them and seeing what they were doing with their money, I changed the way that I was dealing with my own money. And now in December 2020, I sold my practice and I am retired from insurance, but I continue to do this because I just want to get the word out and let people know that you can do this as well.
I love that. I love that you're retired. That sounds amazing. I mean, you're probably 21, right?
No, not quite.
Considering we both have kids around the same age.
Yeah.
Still very impressive that you built up this insurance business and then you were able to sell it, able to retire, have that. And now it seems like you're like, all right, this is the next chapter in my career life. This is what I want to do. It's worked for me, and now I want to expose others to it. Talk a little bit about this mindset shift that you noticed that certain investors had that most professionals didn't have.
Well, the biggest one is that wealthy people tend to look at their money. They don't like for money to sit. And I think largely we as a society We invest in our 401ks, and then it just kind of sits in those until we get where we think about accumulating things and just kind of having it off to the side, whether that's a 401k or a lot of people buy real estate and hold it and wait until they, have paid it off, and that's the goal with that. With wealthy people, they look at their money as a tool, and they're constantly using that tool, and that tool is doing something, which is providing them cash flow every month.
I love it. So they don't just want it to sit there.
Right.
They want it to move. They want it to be able to bring them something. I love that.
And it's so cash, they're always looking for cash flow. I think a lot of people think about, well, how much money do I have in my 401k? Well, that's my net worth. The wealthy are not so concerned with that. They're concerned with how much cash flow they're getting from their investments. And when we think about that cash flow is the thing that gives us all freedom. When there's money coming in, eventually, if that becomes enough money to replace your income, that's when people can retire and be truly free.
I love it. So how does one get started in this amazing unlearning process and generating that cash flow?
Well, I put together what are called syndicated deals. They are real estate deals that we find across the country, and we, do all the due diligence, the negotiation, find the deals, and then we go out and we find our investors who contribute to the deals. And as an investor, you just invest in the project, and then every month you get a distribution that is sent back to you as your cash flow. And once we get to the point of selling the property, then the people actually get the returns that way as well. What's different about it is that we aim to give everybody an 8% preferred return. So that's an 8% return, as well as once the property does sell, we look to give people about 20% preferred annualized return over the course of the investment. And a lot of people are like, well, those sound way too good to be true. But actually, a lot of people, that syndicated deals have been around forever. They've just mostly been utilized by very wealthy people, the banks, insurance companies. It's a very solid, non-fluctuating way to build your wealth. And that is what I do.
I love it. So how much do we need to get into one of these deals? I mean, are we talking, can the average person get in $1,000, $5,000, or do we need a level of capital first before we would come to you like 50 grand?
Yeah, there's a couple different, projects that we have, and the way that they're structured are through, they're either listed through the Securities and Exchanges Commission as a 506C or a 506B. That doesn't mean much to anyone, but what essentially it means is if we are offering a 506B, then you do not have to be an accredited investor to participate. And you can participate with as little as $50,000 in that investment. If it is a 506C, that's what's called, we have accredited investors in those only. And accredited investors just means that you have a net worth of $1 million. So that's a little bit higher than the average person. And usually, again, you can contribute with as little as $50,000. So I know people that get involved in the 506Bs initially until they build up that net worth, and then they can begin to invest in the 506C offerings.
Fantastic. So really the base level would be 50K.
Yes.
And so someone would want to save that, and then they could work with someone like you that was doing syndicated deals. Really amazing. Talk to me about favorite things that are influencing you right now in this new stage. So you had an insurance company for years. Now you're doing this amazing work. Talk to me about favorite podcasts or books or things that are inspiring you.
I get really inspired by my book that I like a lot right now is Killing Sacred Cows, and it's by Garrett Gunderson. And really is a more of a philosophical book, but talks a lot about what I'm talking about right now, which is the mindset of people who have money is very different than the average person. And so it just really talks about working on changing your mindset about money, and as well as, being involved in your investments a lot more than, say, a 401k, where you kind of leave it to someone else to manage, that you are capable, more than capable of making these investment decisions. And yeah, I that's my biggest one right now, that book. Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
That's great. That's great. I love it. Talk to me a little bit. I know you have a 7-year-old son
Yeah.
and he sounds amazing. How has COVID impacted your work, home, all the things?
Yeah, it was quite an adjustment. Last year, then our schools closed down, and so doing the remote learning with a 6-year-old on the computer was quite a adjustment, because I had to continue doing my work at that time. I hadn't retired. And so he came in with me to the office every day, and we tried to do it. Limited attention span of a kindergartner to get through that online learning. But he's in a school here in Colorado. They opened the schools up in September, so thankfully he's been able to be in it. I think I spoke to my sister about this, and just I think the biggest impact is they just haven't seen their grandparents a lot, and so that's just, it's been going on a year now since he's seen one set of his grandparents, and I think that's, it kind of affected all of us. But hoping with the vaccine we'll be able to plan something soon.
Absolutely. Having to really shift and pivot. So you sold your practice during COVID. That's pretty
Yeah.
amazing too. And then now retired. So talk to me now that you have a little more time freedom. Anything in particular you've taken up, a certain hobby or a certain thing that has really been impactful for you?
I finished, or I'm just, well, after this weekend, I think I'll be finished with my first book. And so that I've taken up a lot more creative things. I'm very business minded, but I've really enjoyed, like, I've been putting together like a weekly blog, and just a lot of content, creative content that I really love to get out. My passion really is just, I want other people to be able to do what I've done, and be able to, stay home with their kids, or, have that extra income to supplement them to do things that they didn't think they'd be able to do. But I also, yeah, I've been really getting involved with a lot of charities, because I find that where they're lacking is with raising money, and that's what I like to do. So that's what I've been getting involved in, some charities here in Colorado to raise funds for their particular, causes.
I love it. So cool. Neat to be able to pivot, do different things during this time in particular, and connect in
Mhm.
different ways, contribute in different ways. It's really great. Well, we love to ask everyone, our company is called Rise Up For You. When
Mhm.
you hear that, what does that mean to you?
I think that is, I mean, just to be your best self is sort of what I take from the name, is be your best self every day, and you only get one life, and try to do the best that you can, and be your best self.
Absolutely. I love that. We feel the same way. Rise up for you, so that you can be better for you, your community, your family, and then
Mhm.
globally as well. Well, tell listeners how they can find you. What is your website, Stephanie?
Yeah. My website is www.erbewealth.com. Erbe is actually a German word for legacy. It's sort of a nod to my father, who has passed away the last 15 years ago, but just kind of wanted to give him a nod in my business name.
I love that. And you have a freebie for our listeners as well, right? If they go to your website, there's
Yep.
a free report that they can download. Tell us
Yep.
about that.
Yep, it's a free report that just goes over the 5 reasons that passive investing might be for you. Just sort of breaks down that this isn't super complicated and anyone can really do it.
Love that. So if you want to download your free report on the 5 reasons passive investing might be for you, go to erbewealth.com, which is ERBE wealth.com. Stephanie, it's so great to talk with you and the pivots you've been able to create and changes and helping contribute in the insurance world and then now contributing in this way, plus the charities that you're working with. It's been fantastic having you on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So glad. Wasn't that great hearing from her? A new way, unlearning how we think about money. I love that. Today on the podcast, we want to let you know we have a new course. A new course. Yes, this is going to be a live mastermind course. I know you love that type of thing. I do too. Netta, our founder, and myself are going to be teaching it. And it is on public speaking and how to take the stage. How do I get access to it, Lauren? I want access. I thought you'd never ask. Simply text public speaking to 949-416-0671. That's public speaking, 2 words. Text that to 949-416-0671, and you can get all the details there. It's going to be absolutely amazing. We only have 6 spots left, so be sure if you want to grab that. I'm Lauren Sweeney. I am your host on the Become Your Best podcast and webinar series. It has been amazing having our guest, Stephanie Walter, on today, and we will be back for another exciting episode very soon. Have a great day.